Good luck.
Mhm.
Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Shashi, again with you all on Women Dialogues to create more voice for women and by women. And today's our guest from Oklahoma, the USA, Cecilia. She is an entrepreneurial ecosystem builder and founder of Mass Collaboration. She has done lots of work over years of with lot of companies, lot of people globally, and she is a kind of global person where we will hear how she's building up, how she's doing this all, and how she's making impact in entrepreneurial mindset and those people those are looking such kind of support. She's more into cultural building and awareness. We will hear all those details from Cecilia, and before hearing, we will hear about her journey as well. So let's join our hand together and welcome our today's speaker, Cecilia from Oklahoma. Welcome, Cecilia, on Women
Hi.
Dialogue.
Thank you for having me, Sashi. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, Cecilia, for coming up here and bringing up your voice, creating more voice for us, for ourselves, and for others. So we are really pleased to have you today. Cecilia, as I was reading about your work, you are doing very different work, which is we need right now more than ever. We are talking about cultural building, we are talking about awareness, we are talking about entrepreneurial building, build ship, and all these kind of mindset, those kind of work which you are doing with so many years. But I believe we need more than ever in current situation globally, and you are doing globally those work. So let's start hearing about first, before starting your career journey, let's start hearing about your life journey. So
My
share about your
life.
life journey, where you grew up, what kind of things were around you, what kind of what kind of moments you shared or created or had those impacted your life further.
Great. Well, thank you again for inviting me to be part of this. So I was born in Japan. My family is from Taiwan, and it's very interesting to grow up originally as an immigrant, right? So my very first experience, I didn't know I was not from there, and then we immigrated to the United States, and most of my growing up years was in New York. So really, when you ask me where I'm from, I will tell a lot of people I'm from New York because that's where I grew up. I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is my adopted home. And for a long time, I felt kind of intimidated or concerned about being in the middle of the country, what is commonly referred to by people in the United States as flyover states. You don't actually come here, you just fly over them. And I've lived here for a couple of decades now and realized that there's a lot going on, like especially around women. In New York City, I knew so many women that I admired, right, and respected. But it really wasn't until I got to Tulsa, Oklahoma, that I met women I wanted to aspire to be like, because they
Mm-hmm.
were in the trenches, working hard to make a difference, and they impacted things that happened across the country and around the world. So it's a really powerful thing to have role models who you can talk to, right? Sometimes when we're in big cities, you can't necessarily get to those role models. You can only hear about them, but not actually work with them or know
Right.
them.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a family that were entrepreneurial. I didn't think about it at that time. It was just the thing that they did. I spent 20 years in the travel industry. I did all kinds of different jobs in travel. I worked for car rental companies and timeshare organizations and as a travel agent and in hotels. And my last job in the travel industry was a little bit soul sucking for me. I don't know if you've ever been in a job
Mm-hmm.
where you find yourself constantly compromising. And
Mm-hmm.
I loved the people that I worked with, the relationships that I built, but there was a little bit of discomfort. Regardless, I was not a good fit. I got fired just before I turned 50, which is a very scary time, right? You're 50 plus, you're almost 50 years old. And now this career that you've built over the last 20 years, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I could start again, right? The travel industry, you're the last one hired and the first one fired, because travel, especially around this global pandemic, goes up and down. So I took a trip. I figured, okay, I don't have a job. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I do know that there are 50 states and I've been to 46. So I jumped in my car that summer and I drove and visited the last of the 4 states, so I could say I've been to all 50 states in the United States. And
Beautiful.
during that time, 10,000 miles that summer I drove. I don't remember how many kilometers it is, but out of 10,000 miles, I drove about 6,600 of them by myself.
Wow.
And when you're by yourself, you do a lot of thinking. You do a lot of singing along very loudly, right? With the windows rolled down, and you see all of these things and you meet all these people. But I thought about it, and there was an idea that I wanted to try. 10
Mm-hmm.
years I've been thinking about this food business. And I kept thinking about it and thinking about trying it. And then I put it back on the shelf and I go and do the other jobs.
Right.
And I thought, if I don't try this now, I'm never going to do it. It will never happen. So I got back to Tulsa and I tried to become a food entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
I met up with people who were in entrepreneurship. We I went through an incubator. I went through startup competitions, and I tried all of these things. And I connected with some amazing people. One of them was my food mentor. She owns a business. She's owned a business here in Tulsa for 35 years. She let me use her kitchen. She taught me more about how to purchase and connect and think about the food industry. And then one day she tapped me on the shoulder and she said, I don't want to squish your dream, but I think right now what you need for your business to be successful is a cook. And there's a very big difference between somebody who can cook, that's you, and somebody who is a cook, that's me. She said 6 days a week, I plan my menu, and on the 6 days a week I cook, and on the 7th day I plan my menu. I'm a cook. That's what I do. You you connect people, you network, you do sales, you do marketing, you do other things very well. And not that you couldn't do this well, but I don't know if this is your life. And I thought, I'm struggling, right? It was like, I don't know if starting a business, it's like you're swimming with one arm, right? And then you're
Yeah.
pushing the rock with the other arm as you're
Yeah.
trying to navigate. And it's hard. And when she did that, it was the kindest thing that anyone ever did for me. It didn't seem very nice when I tell people, but she took a big burden off of my shoulders. And she made me really look at what it is I'm really good at and what is
Mm-hmm.
it that I want to do. And I realized, thinking back on what I wanted to do, it was around working with people. Just around the time that we had that conversation, I got an invitation to attend the eShip Summit that the Kauffman Foundation was hosting. The Kauffman Foundation is a globally recognized foundation that supports entrepreneurship. And I was lead organizer of one of their meetups called 1 Million Cups. Globally, the Global Entrepreneurship Network calls it Startup Huddle. And so people get together every week and talk about their business. So I was involved in that, and I was organizing. They invited me to this invitation-only summit. There were 450 people that were invited, 47% women, 29% people of color. It was a beautiful room that I walked into. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea. Why did you invite me? What is this? And they said, we're going to have a summit about ecosystem building. And I said, what the heck is ecosystem building? Because this is a couple of years ago, right?
Right.
Before people use the word. Now everybody says ecosystem.
Right.
Nobody said ecosystem then. And I walk into the room and I was instantly comfortable with the people
Mm,
in the room. They
mm,
were geeking out on the same things that I did. They talk about people and connections and missions and things in a way that I connected with. And I thought, I found my people. That's a really powerful feeling, right? I
right.
found who it is that I want to be around. And I had no idea what they were talking about, but I really loved it. And I thought, well, if a multi-billion-dollar foundation taps you on the shoulder and says you're an ecosystem builder, you should pay attention. So
Mhm.
I surrounded myself with people who are ecosystem builders, and I realized that they were just doing the things that I was doing, trying to help somebody who needs the resources connect with the resources that are available. I look
Mhm.
at things on a very system-wide level. How
Mm,
can one person here connect
mm,
with this person here and have something really magical happen?
mm.
So, so that's how I got into it. A year later, I had been to the Global Entrepreneurship Congress as a US delegate,
Mm.
and I connected with other ecosystem builders, got involved in an organization here in the United States called
Mm.
Startup Champions Network, which I
Right.
now sit on the board of. And and then at the following eShip Summit, the Kauffman Foundation said, we're going to hire a community manager, community activator, somebody who will help all of these people just kind of find each other and work towards things together. And I threw my name in the hat. And up until the end of last year, I was a consultant for the Kauffman Foundation, and I helped ecosystem building practitioners who are doing their work in their custom and bespoke way. So it's been an honor and a privilege to be able to work alongside some of the most amazing people in the world.
Yeah,
That's a
that's
long story, but
no, that's beautiful story, and that was really pulling our in purpose and our all ourself into your that as a you were showing us in the pool, and we are like, okay, we are trying to understand. Okay, now next. It was really interesting to hear when we are seeing those stories and those kind of life journey. Those are with, especially when the real women are coming up sharing about their life journey, how it seems to be, how one see not only just profile, but you see how you are, what exactly it seems to be. Now, it's not overnight you became board member, you became a consultant, because as you shared initially, what was your interest, how you was so good in networking, connecting, building up with people. So, Cecilia, when we are talking about it, your all these interests and all, do you find any kind of this spark or some kind of this connective thing come apart from your career experiences in your childhood, or maybe something? Would you like to think about that, or would you like to share maybe? As you
sure,
said, you are from
absolutely.
Japan, from Taiwan, and the New York and Oklahoma. You are always trying to connect those dots and trying to always, you have a lot of people, a lot of connection globally, as you are always yourself global person. So do you find that kind of mindset prepared you for this kind of roles in your life?
Oh, absolutely. Everything in my experience has prepared me for what I do now.
Mhm.
It's the culmination of the things. So during that time, after the food concept kind of folded, and I was testing out the waters of what is ecosystem building, I asked myself a couple of questions. And in fact, I facilitate a master class on trying to define your purpose. Like my work is more of a business advisory, but I know that a lot of life coaches, people come to life coaches to try to figure out what they need to do. My goal isn't necessarily to help you define, but to give you framework so that you can ask those questions. So some of the questions I asked myself as I was transitioning, during that drive was, what is it that makes you come alive? What is it that excites you? What
Mm.
what do you talk about where I can feel the excitement and I feel energy when I speak to you? And I thought I knew the answer to that, but I realized I didn't really. The second question that I asked myself is, what is it that I'm really good at? What is it that I'm better than other people, superhero, skill good at? And I knew the answer to that question.
Mm-hmm.
What I didn't realize until I talked to the people whose opinions I care about, people that have known me most of my life, they said, the thing that makes you excited is the same thing you're really good at, which is
Mm.
connecting people.
Right.
I'm engaging and connecting and people all the time. In fact, I went to school in New York City. I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, so I'm about 1,300 miles away.
Mm.
And I've organized my high school reunion from here, right?
Mm.
Behind me, there are lots of pictures of Bruce Springsteen. I'm a
Yeah.
big fan of Bruce Springsteen. And
Oh.
I don't know how many shows I've been to, but I have seen him in about 20 states and 4 countries. Where Whenever I go somewhere, I try to get people together. So we've organized tailgates in in states that I maybe know a couple of people, and then other people are coming and we get together. So it's
Right.
all about gathering and convening
Mm-hmm.
people.
Right.
So that's what excites me. The last thing that I was thinking about at that time, and there's a couple of other questions that I sprinkle into the class, but the other thing is, what keeps you up at night? And I always thought that what kept me up at night are all the social justice issues, women's rights, and equity and inclusion and diversity and all of those things. And those things are really important to me. But what I realized, Sashi, was what really keeps me up at night is a sense of belonging, right? I'm an immigrant. I was an immigrant in Japan when I was born. Because even though you're born in Japan, you're not really from there, right? Because you're
Mm-hmm.
Taiwanese. So the
Mm-hmm.
Japanese don't feel like you're a part of them. The Taiwanese recognize that you're a part of them. And then I immigrated to the United States. Most of
Mm-hmm.
my neighborhood was Italian, Irish, Jewish. I don't look like them. So I
Mm-hmm.
was never from there. And I
Mm-hmm.
grew up with those kids in the neighborhood, but you know, I used to be a little more humble about saying that I'm smart. I'm smart.
Yeah.
I test really well, and there was a
Yes.
magnet school in New York City. I took a
Mm.
test, I got in, and
Wow.
people from all over New York City kind of come to this place,
Yeah.
um, and and it was the first time I really felt like I belonged
Mm-hmm.
because we were all a little smart in our own unique ways. And I am so connected with my high school classmates that
Mm.
since the pandemic, every Friday, I have a phone call. I have a Zoom call with
Wow.
classmates. We've been doing it for over a year. Um,
Mm.
and and it's that sense of belonging that I craved that I found in the ecosystem building community, in the Springsteen community, in my high school community. And and I understand the power of feeling like you can be authentically you. And it's a very empowering and and just a magical feeling. And I want everybody to be able to have that. So that's the focus of my consultancy is I
Mm-hmm.
focus on connecting,
Mm-hmm.
engaging,
Mm-hmm.
and belonging. So
Yeah.
those are core to all the things that we talk about and do. And
Yes.
that's all my life.
Yeah, that's beautiful share, connecting, engaging, and belonging. And when we are talking about it, those, as you said, your consultancy as a mass collaboration, which connects, engage, and collaborate together, connect people. Uh, Usually, just like as you said, we all are come with our own inhibitions, with our own mindset, and when especially the work as you are doing, connecting, engaging, collaborating, sometimes it takes a lot, right?
Mhm.
Because uh, you are ready for the role, but when somebody is approaching you, they come with their own, as I said, they're with own inhibitions, their own expectation, they're with own mindset, right? How you deal that, how you make it happen that.
So we've created a framework. Everybody wants to get to collaboration, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, working with people that aren't like you, that's a fact. You will always work with people who are not like you. Working
Mm.
with them well, that's the art, right? So that's what I focus on. How do you take your cultural values? And by cultural values, I'm not talking about race or gender or ableism or all of those, although those are very important things. I talk
Mm-hmm.
about the things about you, like your relationship with time and ambiguity. Are you a person who's always on time? Are you a person who needs direct information, or can you work in a little bit more loose environment?
Mm.
So, so those are the cultural values that we bring and to have each other recognize. And then how do we work together? So what we've discovered in the work that I've done around a couple of hundred, couple of thousand ecosystem builders and entrepreneurs and all of that, everybody wants to create a team. When you try to create a team, you flock. It's a natural species, like every species connects with the people that are like them, right? So
Right.
men hang out with women hang out with women, technologists hang out with technologists, whatever that is that you connect with, you seem to flock. That flocking is good because it keeps us assured and feel validated because there are other people like you. The challenge is when everybody is like you, there's not a lot of creativity, innovation, not that you can't do it, but everybody talks alike. So
Yeah.
how do you get to the next thing? Then you have
Exactly.
to do, right? So this inclusion thing that we talk about, it requires an invitation.
Mm.
Invitations should be bold, and they should be intentional, and they should be clear. Clarity is a gift. And sometimes we want everyone to feel welcome. So we make this invitation very wide. Unfortunately, with that, there becomes some ambiguity. What are we here for? And then everybody brings their own experiences and their own agendas, and there's nothing wrong with that. But
Mm-hmm.
if you don't tell them what they're there for, right? We're
Yeah.
here to start a company that's going to focus on this. And everybody comes because they want to work in this company. But then they realize the company's goals are not necessarily the same as my goals. Wait,
Right.
but I don't know. Because we said, oh, but everybody is welcome. Yes, you should welcome a wider swath of people. But if you make the invitation very specific, then they
Mm.
know, how do you show up? What is expected of me, right? What do we need to do together? And
Yeah.
so if you don't feel aligned, you can go and do other things. But we make invitations specific and we open up to everyone to come in their own ways. Then we talk about building that culture. So that culture is that sense of belonging where people are in community together. You can say things, I can say things, and we feel that we're part of this community so we can thrive together because we're doing the thing that we want to do collectively.
Right.
Then when we build those relationships, then there's more communication. And when we communicate better, then we understand each other a little bit more. From
Yes.
that comes coordination, because if I'm communicating with you, then we can go in different directions and we won't crash, right?
Yes.
It becomes a part of not being an echo chamber, right? We don't talk about cooperation. That's the only C that I don't necessarily include, because cooperation is wonderful, but it is to go along to get along.
Right.
Creativity and innovation doesn't happen without things like dissent and dialogue and conflict, right? If you see things one way and I see things a different way, we built that relationship so you and I can communicate. then we can coordinate, and then we can create something. Because creativity is and innovation is about taking something different from something else and bringing them together. Steve
Mm-hmm.
Jobs is a great example. People would say Steve Jobs is not very innovative because, these things existed. But this phone, this phone is my computer, right? The computers and telephones did not exist together. In his mind, he put the two things together and created something new. So he was innovative, not that he invented the phone or the computer, but he was innovative in seeing how they connected and made something else. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where innovation is. And if you don't think outside the box, if you just keep doing the way the things are always done,
Yeah.
things don't happen.
That's really interesting to hear, and share, especially with our audience, how they can understand, how they can be inclusive, how they can bring all these creativity and togetherness rather than crushing each other, how they can build up with their creativity and can get collaborate. So Cecilia, when we are talking all about it, you must be having a lot of experience. You must have done a lot of work on this, in the same field, in the same regard. Would you like to bring some experience or share some story with us?
Sure. So one of my wonderful interactions was with Carla Tennis when we were at the Global Entrepreneurship Congress. So we met and hung out together at the Global Entrepreneurship Congress. The last time was in Bahrain,
Mm.
where we were in 2019. And we were talking about ecosystem building. And Carla runs an organization called the Future Agro Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
They work with farmers and entrepreneurs in creating innovation.
Mm-hmm.
There's 60 member organization, 60 country members, and they're growing. So if you're in the ag field in countries, they're representatives from all over the world. And she invited me to take the pillars of what we talk about in ecosystem building. There are 7 goals in ecosystem building. Um, and they're more like buckets of things. So they're very much like the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So the
Right.
UN has 17 goals or the world will implode.
Yeah.
Ecosystem building, through the work of the Kauffman Foundation and the ecosystem building community, we've identified 7 pillars.
Mm-hmm.
Things like inclusive field and connected networks and metrics and things like that, as we bring those things together. And so
Mm-hmm.
she invited me to help. And the other thing that I do is I facilitate. So I facilitate at events, virtually or in person, to do
Mm-hmm.
panels. And she invited me to Greece, and who doesn't want to go to Greece? So I said, okay, I'll come. And I worked with global leaders, this Future Agro Challenge global leadership, in order to come and work together collaboratively. So
Right.
how does somebody in Nigeria collaborate with somebody who is in Lebanon,
Mm-hmm.
to coordinate with somebody who's in Algeria and Australia?
Right.
So we talked about how to work on organizations together, and had a lovely time in Greece with some amazing people, from all these wonderful countries, to be able to communicate and work towards a common vision and a goal. So they feel like they're more connected, and even though they're worlds apart, and they
Mm.
work on things in very different ways. So it's been an amazing journey, and I'm always interested, and through that I've talked to communities in different countries. So
Yeah, that's interesting. And the way you shared about this, especially this story, it really reminded me how it can be more creative and impactful when we are aligning with same purpose and with same kind of creativity, as you said. So, Cecilia, when we are talking all about your work, all about this beautiful collaboration, creativity, it sometimes we know it's looks beautiful, it is beautiful, but it takes a lot of energy from your own. It takes a lot of time to have that mindset, to have that energy, to have that enthusiasm and passion. So it's not only just a job, but it requires a lot of passion and energy as well. And I know you shared that you found that you are a person who drive with this kind of things. So do you find many times it's somewhat it's challenging, or it goes with your flow, as you mentioned, or with some certain period of time you feel like it's getting depleted and I need that to balance that?
I think that's natural for anything. You know, entrepreneurs are very needy people, right?
Right.
It's the nature of who they are. They need resources, they need inspiration, they need all of this. So it's a very much this feeling, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And as an ecosystem builder, we're always kind of sharing out. We
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
about the community, we think about the systems. It's like being a parent,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You're
Exactly.
a parent of a young child, and you're always running around after them and taking care of
Right.
all their needs.
Yeah. Exactly.
And
That's
you
why
have
that kind of
to,
thought was coming in my mind. Like, okay, it's good, but sometimes it might be overwhelming. And how you felt?
it's exhausting. And sometimes you wonder, all of this work that I'm doing, does it matter? Right? Does it
Right.
make a difference? Because you can't even see what's
Mm,
next. You're
mm,
helping people navigate the fog, you know, and they can't see, and then you can't see, but what's the end goal? The end goal isn't always, you know, we have this picture of entrepreneurship like, oh, you have this idea, and then you sell your idea and people throw money at you, and then you make a lot of money, and then you exit, and this is like the unicorn thing, right? Where and entrepreneurship looks like Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. And that's not necessarily what people all are trying to do. There are mission
mm,
driven entrepreneurs who are not working in tech, right? They don't get as much exposure. We think about venture capital, and
mm,
everybody talks about venture capital and investments and all of that. Do you know that statistically, 99.95% of businesses never see venture capital? Somebody
mm.
is not going to come to you with a bucket of money. It's just not something that happens, right? Not often. So this Shark Tank mentality of winners and losers, that's not the world that I live in. I live in the people who struggle day to day to open their doors, to pick up that phone one more time, to send out that email, and try to get to the next day and put food on the table and take care of their families and the people that they love. And that doesn't always look like what people think about entrepreneurship like. And on top of that, as an ecosystem builder, you're looking out on this network and this web of all of these things that you're seeing, right? Because we look at things in a system level, and and it's like, how do I make sure that this person doesn't get lost? So you have this energy not only to support entrepreneurs, but to make sure that everything is thriving. Now you have to remember to take care of yourself, right? You have to remember to eat right, drink lots of water, get a good night's sleep. Those things come later, but they can't, because if they don't come now, then there is no later.
Hmm.
So I find that some of the most important things that I do is I connect with a board of my advisors, right?
Yeah.
My personal advisors. Most of them are women, which is interesting. There's some men involved as well, but there are communities of women. We get
Mhm.
on a phone call, you know, or I can text somebody and say, I'm running through this thing. It's really hard. Kind of help me out. You don't have to have all the answers. I
Right.
think that we think that we have to be able to do all of it, and we
Yeah.
don't. If
Mhm.
you do something well, you should do it. And I do something else well, and I should do it. And there's an opportunity to do it together. That's great.
Yeah.
Meantime, we support each other in doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Hey, are you doing okay? Hey, did you see this? Because you can't have eyes everywhere. So that's what networks are important. And they're the thing that sustains me. right?
Mm-hmm.
If they don't hear from me for a while, maybe they'll send me a message and say, are you okay? What's going on with you? And it's together that we have all the answers. So
Mm-hmm.
those are the things that I focus on, is
Mm-hmm.
that connectedness.
Yeah, and that's very beautiful message. How one can, keep connected herself. How one can find those positive moments by just not crushing each other, but to share each other, to understand each other, to respect each other. Work and specialization, and same time, if possible, get go along with align with. But if not, just be with that or understand and respect. So when we are talking all about, we are sitting on this Women Dialogue talk show, we are sharing our journey. And many time our audience and our especially if our women are hearing us, they find something similar. Might be I'm thinking of what message or what kind of advice would you like to give to them?
I there's a lot of advice to give. In fact, I'm writing a book about it, right? So
Wow.
right now I'm focusing on writing a book about ecosystem building, because literally, just as I shared with you, the idea that we have to do things the same way other people have. So the
Mm-hmm.
world was built by men,
Mm-hmm.
um, and we think of things like, what is the value of a success, in the terms that men have already lined out for us. So we think that if we're really busy, that we're being productive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we can do it quicker, faster, then that's better. And that's not necessarily true. Sometimes it takes a while for things to percolate. And the patience that needs, it takes 9 months to have a baby, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't happen just like that. So as women, we've had to learn patience. We've had
Mm.
to learn that things don't get done in an instant, and things don't get done just the way I say so, because we have to bring everybody else along, right? We hold up half the sky. So because we do it in different ways, it means that we have to be supportive collectively, right? We look at raising a child, or having a family. We think about the whole system. How do we make sure that everybody comes to the table so we can eat? How does a meal consist of more than one dish, right? So there's variety and there's different flavors of doing things. It's not necessarily the structure that we've been told, right? For the past couple of millennia, we've been told, this is how you do business. This is how you do successful business. You know that women-led businesses are usually more successful and more profitable. Right? That's statistically, you can pull it up. Fortune 500, Forbes, all of those things will tell you, when women are in leadership, that means that we can't tear each other down, right?
Mm-hmm.
By this rising tide supporting each other. That, the whole idea of competition, like, there's this much pie. If I have to fight with you, we've been told you have to fight over this piece of pie, right? If you don't take the pie, then somebody else will take the pie. And you think that this is a zero-sum game, that this is
Mm.
a scarcity mindset, because
Yeah.
somebody told you there's only
Yeah.
one pie and you better get
Yeah.
your own. You know what? I live in a world where I can get together with you and we can bake more pie, right?
Yeah.
And maybe we'll make
Yeah.
some cookies and some cake, and maybe we should be on a diet, so we'll make something else. But it's all of these things that people
Yeah.
tell you and you go,
You
you
go.
know what?
Yeah.
That's not true, because
Yeah.
literally they made it up. Like,
Mm.
people say Darwin said survival of the fittest. Darwin never said survival of the fittest. He
Mm.
actually said that species that work symbiotically with
Right.
other species thrive. It
Mm.
was social Darwinists, some other people that came along, and literally old white men came along and said, oh no, survival of the fittest. You have to compete with each other. I don't want to do that. And
Mm.
many women that I know do not approach that. It felt wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all these leadership books, what is that? That's not, I don't want to do leadership like that. I don't want to tell people what to do. If you look up a list of leaders, most of the people that you see on that list are people who govern, right? Who are like political people and people who manage, like big corporation people.
Right.
Those are a kind of leadership, but I like the other kind of leadership. I like the leadership where you turn to each other and you support one another, right? Margaret Wheatley talks about leadership as being creating islands of sanity and chaos. I want to create more islands of sanity, right? I don't want to go tell you what to do. I ain't got nobody has time for that.
I think that's very unique and very important leadership style which you are sharing with us, and we all get those feeling, but we always feel like, okay, we might not be, we lost, we are not having time, and we just get along with those things that are going on. But as you said, it's very important, we need to be mindful and we need to understand what we really are looking for, what kind of leadership we want to create for ourselves, for others, for maybe other generations, as you said. So Cecilia, that's very important and very inspiring thing you are sharing with us. With this same way, we would like to ask, why do you feel the platform like this Women Dialogue is important as well?
Because we don't have all the answers, right? Even working at the Kauffman Foundation, like there's no room at the Kauffman Foundation that's the answer room, right? Believe me, I looked at all the rooms. There's no answer room at the Kauffman Foundation. There's some very smart people and they have some great notions. I find that I only have the experiences and the thoughts in my head and in my personal experience. So it's that connecting. It's that being able to talk to somebody like you and say, so, Sashi, tell me what you think, right? And you don't have to agree with me. Sometimes it feels good when somebody agrees with you, but I just want to widen the perspective to say, what do you think about it? And it's like, you know, a lot of us, we look in windows to see what else there is. I want to step into the threshold. I want to step in the doorway, not all in your world, not all in my world, but I want to stand in the doorway and I want to push that frame wider so more light comes in, right? And being able to do that, like you don't have to have an opinion. You can just listen. And when we listen to each other and we stop having to defend ourselves or to make you think the same way I do, right? Maybe just understand that there's a different way and it's not right. It's not wrong. It just is. So that takes a lot of time and patience and you cannot do it overnight. It's like a little muscle, right? You have to flex that muscle to make it stronger, right? You can't like pick up 200 pounds at one time, nor should you. So you try it a little bit at a time. Have you ever heard the analogy, how do you eat an elephant? Are you familiar with that phrase? How do you eat an elephant? It's like, it's the analogy in saying, there's this really big problem. How do you fix the really big problem? Well, the answer to how you eat an elephant is one bite at a time. You just take a little bit and a little bit. And I used to say this all the time. And then one day I went to go share that. I was Googling on my computer and I wanted to send somebody like a picture of how do you eat a meme.
Right.
And I stumbled across an article that said, don't eat the elephant one bite at a time. And I said, wait a minute, for years I've been telling people eat an elephant one bite at a time. This article said, don't eat the elephant one bite at a time. It's a lot. It's exhausting. And the elephant, there's so much. And then after a while, it gets stale. Like you keep trying to tackle that problem and it goes, and you hate the problem now. Now you don't even want to solve it, right? You just kind of keep doing it. So the article said, you know what, maybe if you take this elephant analogy and you say, instead of just eating the elephant, you know what you should do? Invite other people to help you eat the elephant, right? Then everybody takes some. And then you don't have to eat it all by yourself, right? Because it's
Right.
a lot. And then
Yeah.
it's like, well, maybe if you had an elephant party, right? And say, hey, I've got this elephant to eat. You want to come to my party? And then maybe somebody will bring, I don't know, some other giraffe or zebra or whatever. And everybody brings something else. And then
Yeah.
we all do it together. Isn't that more
Mm-hmm.
fun?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
That's the world that I want to live in.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And thank you for having such kind of, interest and having this kind of feeling for our this women dialogue platform where we are together, having this feeling. Yeah, we all are bringing our journey, our experiences, and broaden our spectrum, broaden our thinking, and creating that mindset for our audience. So thank you, Cecilia, for sharing this beautiful elephant analogy. And moving ahead, how we hear you, we understand how you are creating, how you are doing. And last thing, how just one line, how you can give to our audience, which they can feel like, yes, we need to stick with that. One
So,
message, one line.
one of my favorite quotes is by a woman I very much admire, um, Dolly Parton. And Dolly Parton said, find out who you are and do it on purpose.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot for sharing it, for being with us. And with this note, I just would like to pay my gratitude and wish you all the very best for your future work, for your current work which you are doing, and uh, and keep doing on. That's all I would like to say that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me and for our time together. I hope it was beneficial.
Yeah, I definitely, it is beneficial for our audience, for all of us. And thanks to all our viewers who are listening and watching us. And please be connected with us. If you would like to be part of this, connect with us. Please share, subscribe, and like. And if you would like to get your entrepreneurial mindset and maybe a collaboration, get connect with Cecilia. Her details are available in the description as well. See you next time. Till then, take care. Bye bye.